In this training video, we're going to be talking about REIPRO's dashboard. Now, up here at the top, you're going to see the word dashboard. You're going to also see that how to get back to this in your main menu. We also have a statistics button, which we're going to cover in just a second. So the very first section we have here is a welcome to REIPRO. So if you are a new user, come in, watch the video, and most importantly, click the watch tutorials button. This is going to give you short demos of different parts of REIPRO so you can become more familiar with how it works. I'm going to click back to dashboard. Now below the welcome to REIPRO is our quick property lookup. This is great when you want to research an address. You may know of an address, or maybe you're driving neighborhoods and you want to learn a little bit more about that property. Here you could search by address, APN number, or the owner's name. All you have to do is just start typing in an address. You're going to scroll down until you find the address. Once the property is pulled up, number one, we're going to give you a street view if available. We're going to tell you some statuses about that property. In this case, it's owner occupied. It is a townhouse, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and so on. So a lot of basic information. Over to the right, you're going to have a great map that you can zoom in and zoom out. You can also do street views. You can also change the layers. Underneath that, we're going to give you a bunch of analytics about the property, from estimated value to estimated mortgage payment and the school ratings in this area. And underneath, we're going to give you all the public record data. So this is all the bare bone information that you're going to need to use in order to determine if you actually want to save this property or maybe add it to a marketing campaign. You can scroll through the tax information, any mortgage information on the property, the deed transfer history, and you can also check comparable sales. So as I scroll down, you'll be able to see all of the different comparable sales to give you an idea what's going on in this area. What are properties actually selling for? Now from this screen, you have a choice to either just clearly exit from this property, save it to your properties section so you can actually start working the property, or move it to a direct mail campaign. Now, once you've researched the property, we're actually going to save the last 5 properties here. And as you can see, we either have an open or a go-to. So a go-to is I actually saved this property to REIPRO, whereas an open, we still remember the property, but maybe you're not sure exactly what you want to do with it or how you want to move forward at this point. Last but not least, if you scroll back up, you're going to see this search in bulk. This is actually going to take you to our REIPRO section of the software where you could search for properties in bulk, from absentee owners to vacant properties to pre-foreclosures and many other lead types. Now below the quick property lookup, you have any properties that you have marked for follow-up, and below that you have your favorite properties. As we scroll back up to the top right, you're going to see our calendar. If you want to utilize the calendar, go down and click expand, and this will open up the calendar. If you want to set something as an event or maybe just a simple reminder, you could click on the date, enter the event name, the date. You can also set yourself reminders. So maybe reminder number 1 could be a text message. So you do have multiple different ways to remind yourself that you have a reminder on the calendar. If you have other members on your team, you can also mark this event on their calendars as well. You can also have a property that you have saved to the system because maybe this note is in regards to that property. And then at the bottom, you can fill in any notes or details about this. I am just going to close that out. Underneath that, you're going to have incoming website leads. So with REIPRO, we do have an integration, which is Zapier, where you can connect your websites to REIPRO. So if a seller fills out a form on your website, you can also have that lead sent directly to REIPRO. We can share it here. You can learn more about this by simply clicking the little plus icon. Below that is our popular site section. So those websites that you just want quick access to, all you have to do is just simply click that plus icon and add a site. As you can see, you can edit and delete these as well. Below that is our REI Pro Support Center. Any questions you may have about the system, the software, where something may be, this would be a great way for you to connect with our customer service team. And also stay connected on our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Last but not least, at the very top is our Manage Dashboard. This gives you the opportunity to customize your dashboard. Maybe you're a user that has been here for 6 months and you don't want to see the welcome screen. Well, you could simply hide that. Or maybe you just want to rearrange how this particular page looks. You have all of this right at your fingertips. Once you do that, you just click the X, and as you can see, things are going to move instantly. Next, I'm going to move to the statistics section of the dashboard. Now, the area statistics is super important. This is going to give you an idea of what's going on from home sales to home price and price per square foot, along with the school ratings. It will also show you the number of types of leads that are in this particular area. If you want to add a new location, just click the new location button. You can enter a county, city, or zip code. You also have the ability to delete them. If you want to understand what's going on, maybe you have multiple different areas here, you can just simply click on those areas and it will refresh. If we scroll below that, we're going to have our total properties that we have saved to REI Pro. So as you can see, I have 388 properties that I've saved. I have 9 in follow-up. I have archived one of those properties. 8 of them are my favorites. 4, I have a 5-star rating. And as you can see, I haven't exported anything. So this gives you an overall look of your property section. Now below that is our contracts. This is where you have the ability to start setting goals. As you can see, I've set the goal of to do 12 deals per year. So obviously you have to put a house under contract in order for it to close. And you'll start to see statistics as you put houses under contract and once they closed. For a more detailed look at this, you can scroll over to the contracts dashboard button. Here, you're going to see the properties that I currently have under contract, as well as the properties that I have closed here. If you want to manually add a property, you could do so by clicking Add Property. Otherwise, if you're working the property and you go to executable step number 5, which I'll show you in a second, when you mark that step complete, that property will now move into this properties under contract section. To edit the lead, all you have to do is click the 3 dots, select Edit Lead. Here you could actually move this lead to a closed section if you choose to. You can enter the contract date, the potential closing date, what's it under contract for, the strategy, the exit strategy, by whom, the potential profit, and then eventually as you close the deal, you can add in the net profit. As I scroll down below the properties closed, you're going to see the same analytics that's going to show you how you're doing. So as you can see, I've set a goal to do 12 deals a year. Year to date, I have a total of 7 contracts. I have put 58% of my goal under contract and I have closed 6, which gives me a 50% ratio. Underneath that, you're going to see on the months under contract, the deals closed per month, the percentage of closed deals, and most importantly, the total income year to date. This is going to help you stay focused, stay on track, because at the end of the day, our business is about closing deals. And our contract section is a great way for you to manage that. Now, once I go into the property section, if I click on the property, I scroll down to my executable steps. Now, like we said, step 5, which is putting the house under contract. Once I mark this step complete, this property will now move to my contracts dashboard. You can also access the dashboard right from step number 5 here. I do recommend that you do fill this information out here just to speed the process up, but keep in mind you can edit this particular details once you get to the contracts dashboard. You move through the executable steps. When you get to step 10, after you've closed the deal, be sure to mark that step complete as well. And that will move it from under contract to the close section. And ultimately, this is the goal, is to figure out how well you are doing. Are you meeting your goals in this business? And I think this is going to be a super huge hit for everyone to keep track of their contracts, what's going on with each contract, what are the estimated closing dates, what are our net profits, and so on. Now, below our contract section, you're going to see our marketing campaigns and buyers. So this is going to give you an overall view. Now, in the marketing campaigns, you can actually select a date range of what am I doing this month? How many postcards did I send out? Or maybe I just want to check the last month. So this is going to help you identify your marketing efforts as far as postcards, maybe letters that you've sent. The one thing that I love about this is that now you're going to have a history of, hey, did I actually send any direct mail last month because I totally forgot? This part of the software is going to simplify that all in one screen. Now, as I scroll back up, you're also going to see the managed statistics. This is great because now you can organize and customize the way that this page is. Maybe you want to hide certain things, or maybe you want to move more of the important stuff to the top. Here you have the option to do that. One of REIPro's top features is our comparable sales tool. As you can see, I'm logged into a saved property. I'm going to scroll down to where you're going to see our executable steps workflow and go to step number 4. Here you're going to find our comparable sales tool, our deal analyzer, and all of our offer formulas. So definitely jump into that after the comparable sale. But let me share a few of the awesome features that our comparable sales tool offers. The very first thing is you can actually filter your comparable sales tool down. So maybe if you have a single family house, you don't need to see condos and other types of properties, as well as bedrooms, baths, square feet, year built, lot size, how many months back. Now, keep in mind, you don't want to go 12 months back because 12 months ago was a different time frame. We want to try to find homes that have sold that are comparable within a very short time frame. So we default it to 6 months, but feel free to go back maybe a month or maybe 3 months. And how many comps do you want to show? Also, the distance from the property. Maybe we exclude all properties within a certain radius. REIPro does offer MLS comps as well as all county records. So any property like a for sale by owner that has sold is also going to be displayed here. I like to display all of them. Once you do that, you could simply apply the filters. Next, we also offer beside that is you can email this particular comps report once you have ran through our comparable sales and selected the comps to get to our most important number in real estate, which is the after repaired value. This is what a home would sell for if in tip-top shape after all repairs have been made on the property. You can also view and print this report. Now, we do have the map here, which has a lot of things actually going on. So you can see the pin marker. This is where the subject property is going to be. And then the letters are going to represent A being the closest. Obviously, if you get to Z, Z would be the furthest away. You can expand this map to get a more full screen. You can also go to layers and actually see the school boundaries. A lot of times you may pick a comp that may be outside of a specific school boundary, as well as neighborhoods. You can also draw. Maybe you want to draw within certain streets as boundaries because, as you know, properties on this side of the street may be a different neighborhood than on the other side of the street. And that's where the draw tool can really help you. If you scroll down, obviously you could drag this icon anywhere on the map and we can actually get a street view from that. And of course, just simply zooming in and zooming out you can do as well. Now to the right is going to be our summary. You can see that I've already selected 2 comparable sales that are properties that are similar to this property. It's going to give us the average cost per square foot for those 2. It's going to give us the average sold price. And then what is that after repaired value? We're going to actually carry this number into our offer formula so we can make the correct offer to the owner. Down below, you're going to see all of the different comparable sales. You're going to see the address, the sold price, the sold date, bedrooms, baths, year that it was built, the square footage, which is the most important number that I look at. lot size, distance from the subject property, the price per square foot that it's sold for. We also have these little icons here. Those icons are going to take you to Google where you can explore pictures so you can understand what the condition of the property was in at the time that it sold. You're going to also see our MLS badge. Like I said, we are going to bring in all the comparable sales. We have MLS and county records for all 50 states. So as an example, if you live in the state of Texas, you're going to be able to see all the comparable sales. As you know, it's a non-disclosure state, which doesn't allow sold data to be published publicly. But because you have an REI Pro account where you actually have to log in, we have special permission to display this information to our members. Now, once I've selected the comps that I'd like to choose, you're going to see that summary over here. Now, again, I can go and actually view and print this and have a report available as well as emailing it. Again, finding the after repaired value is a must in real estate investing, and anytime that you want to buy a piece of real estate, to make sure that you're paying the proper price for it. The next step, you would want to move on to the offer formula. If you're giving a cash offer, a lease option offer, a seller finance offer, or even a pre-foreclosure offer, you're gonna need this number. What we want to do first is just enter a location. I've just already put in Houston, Texas. The next most important thing is, what are you looking for? You're going to see absentee owners, property free and clear of any mortgages, high equity, low equity. We have definitions for those. Owner occupied. Now, from an investor standpoint, this may not be that valuable, but to like a realtor, it's going to be extremely valuable because everybody's got that postcard in the mail that their local realtor has sold a house down the street from you, right? Pre-foreclosures, properties that are in a trust, properties that are upside down on their mortgages, vacant properties, bank-owned, potential investors, and then vacant land. Now, one of the cool things that you could do here, and which we're going to do tonight, is called list stacking. So I can come in and say, okay, I want absentee owners that are vacant. And what that means, and this is so important, if you're a current user of REIPRO, super important here. A vacant property, we update every 30 days, comes straight from the post office. So what the post office says is they try to deliver mail. I believe it's up to like 90 days.
Like 90 days.
And nobody's picking up the mail, and they get tired. Like, oh, we're not going to keep delivering mail here. So they deem the property vacant. Now, I want you to also understand that the tax assessor could say they still live there. So if you try to send mail there and the tax assessor says they live there and you send it to the post office, no, we're not delivering mail to that address. We're going to return it. Super important. That's why I checked absentee owners. Now, if you come in here and just do vacant properties, I'm going to show you how to clean the list here very shortly so you can identify those properties that I was just talking about. But before we jump in, I want to show you something that I don't think a lot of people are utilizing. If you're new and you have no idea what to look for, I want you to understand what strategy you're working. So if you're working wholesaling, if you're rehabbing, lease option, seller financing, or pre-foreclosure, we have some defined filters already set for you. Okay. And this is going to help you get started if you don't know what you're looking for. We're going to go back. We're going to do absentee owners. We're going to also check, and this is what you call list stacking. It's actually narrowing the total amount of leads, because what we're saying here, it has to be vacant, but it's also has to be an absentee owner at the same time. Now, if we go in, we'll click search here. You're going to see the map on the right, which we're going to talk about because I think it's underutilized and there's so many cool tools here. We have a total of 5,400, just over 5,400 leads. We're only showing you 250 dots on the map, but you can see that there's 5,464. Here's the first thing that I do is to go to your filters, because what we want to do is start filtering this list down to our buying criteria. Now, we have defaulted the condo, townhome, multifamily, mobile home. I'm going to uncheck that and use single family as an example. But I also want to mention to you that you see this search box down here? You could find anything. A dairy farm, a bowling alley. I don't care if it's recorded information, any real estate that's recorded, which it all should be, you can find it. I'm narrowing it down to single family just because there's more of it here. As I scroll down, if you are a rehabber, it's very important. You're going to put in estimated values here. So depending on what strategy you're doing, may depend how you do this. I'm going to leave this blank for now and come back to it. I'm going to show you why here in a minute. I want everybody to look at potential equity. You can do it by dollars. I do it by percentage. Okay, I'm going to put it 50%. I want everybody to just think for a second. If I'm wholesaling, I want you to ask yourself this question. In wholesaling, I have to be able to pay cash at a discount. Generally, it's at a discount because it's distressed. And most investors don't pay full price, especially with cash, right? So usually an investor has to get a return. They wouldn't pay it unless they're looking for the long-term run on it. If that's the case, I already know that I have to get a discount. I don't want to wholesale a property where they have no equity in it because you can't wholesale it. That would change the strategy maybe to a lease option or seller finance, but not wholesale. So depending on what strategy you're working, I want you to think of that. If you're working the lease option business, number one, I like to find neighborhoods that they're generally in a good neighborhood. They don't need much work. Somebody could literally move in tomorrow. You might not like the paint. The carpets may not be cleaned, but people can move in. Would the owner be willing to, number one, take a small down payment, what we call option payment, receive monthly payments, and be cashed out in a short period of time, a year or 2 years? Would they sell or finance it? Would they deed me the property, not have to worry about maintenance costs and repairs, and make interest through that term and get paid off sometime in the near future? Could be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be. And the reason why I want you to ask yourself those questions, it's going to help you define how much equity that you're really looking for. Because if I'm working with lease options, as an example, I don't have to have any equity in the property. I would like some equity, but I don't have to have it. It's not required. Whereas wholesaling, it is required. If you're rehabbing, it is required. Seller financing, I still like to get a good deal, so I would put some equity here. So to me, this equity percentage is very valuable when you understand what business that you're working. Next, what I like to do is exclude any HELOCs and reverse mortgages, which Florida's known for the reverse mortgages. Let's see, I don't even know if there are any. There's not even one single reverse mortgage in this list, by the way. As we scroll down, we get to the bedrooms, bathrooms, and all that stuff. And I want you to go back to what I said before, situations. People sell on situations. Most investors, sure, they want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. They want a bigger home. Got it. But aren't there homes that you could wholesale and work deals with that maybe are a 2-1? You think about it, somebody owns a house in every area here. You can make money as long as the numbers work. You have to make the numbers work. For me, if I'm wholesaling, I'm not real picky on how many bedrooms and bathrooms there are. If I'm rehabbing, I am picky. So I don't want to rehab a 2-1 because I know that my buyer pool is going to be much smaller. But if I'm wholesaling, I could assign this contract off to an investor that maybe rents properties out in that particular area because somebody always owns a house there. This is going to vary also depending on what strategy you're working. Square feet, lot size, to me, I'm not too picky if I'm working wholesaling, but I may be picky if I'm rehabbing. A lot of people say last sold date. As an example, if you select more than 2 years, meaning that the owner has owned it longer than 2 years, that somehow they would be more motivated. Maybe, but yesterday I wasn't in divorce, but today I am. right? I owned the property for a month. I'm still motivated. I want everybody to understand people sell because of a situation, not because they just want to sell to you. Otherwise, they'd have a for sale by owner sign sitting in the front yard, or they'd have it listed with an agent. A lot of these properties are going to be all off market properties. If I want to see properties that are listed for sale, I can go to Zillow, I can go to Redfin, I can go to realtor.com and pull that. To me, I know the last sold date is not super important to me, but I'm going to just market to everybody because I know it ultimately comes down to a situation. When I get to the owners, I do like to do individual owned. I like to talk to somebody that can actually make a decision. Sometimes it's hard, especially if it's a big company. You send marketing materials, it's never going to get in the right hands. Now, again, there are a lot of LLCs, Bo, that are just two people, right? You could send a postcard, they're going to get it. But I like to just separate that. Then we look at, does that owner live in state or out of state? Because remember, here at the top, we selected absentee owner. So we already know that they don't live here. A lot of people say, hey, if they live out of state, they're going to be more motivated. But as I just went back to you and said, I mean, they could live down the street and have problems and need to sell the house down the street. So to me, not super important. Now, you could do a test. You could build one campaign that says in state and then build another campaign that's out of state just to see what kind of results you get. To me, I'm just going to do them all because I want to get as much as I possibly can out there, because I need to know if I'm going to direct mail market, as an example, I need to hit as many people as possible because I have to, that card has to land at the right time. And that moment of time is the time that somebody says, God, I got to do something with that property. I'm in trouble. My health issue. I lost my job. Something is going on. I'm tired of tenants. Something has to be going on. So I want to get it to as many people as possible. Now, when I apply that filter, it's obviously taking my list down. You may not have enough funds to market 2,200 people. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to go back to the filter. And the only thing that I didn't do was price. And this is where I could say, okay, give me the 300 to, let's say, 500. That's going to bring my list down to 261. Okay, so now that might be more affordable for me if you're that person that, look, Chris, I don't have a ton of money to invest in direct mail right now. That's where you would really adjust these prices. Now I want to move into the map unless you want me to show something else with that, Bo.
Well, the only comment I want to make here is, and don't leave this screen, but on the previous screen, you were saying that a lot of people don't realize you have this search by strategy. Yeah. And I just want to point out that it is a starting point, and yes, those filters that you were just going through, we predefined those based on that situation. And it's, again, a starting point. So you can then click on the filters and still tweak it. So it would get you started with some of the criteria that he's going over based on certain situations, and then you can further customize from there.
Yep, absolutely. All right. I got to show you some really awesome stuff on this map. Now, I used Houston, Texas as a starting point. And as you could see, there are boundary lines around the city of Houston. Now, if I go in and see this little box that says search by map right here, if I check that, it's going to keep the filters that I've already set, but now actually go outside of the Houston boundary line. So just don't feel that you're confined. Let me zoom in just one here. Don't feel that you're confined within a boundary line. Now, I do have the option to come up here and say, hey, I want, let's say College Station, since we're doing a Texas thing tonight, apparently. So if I do College Station, now I have two separate locations. With one of REI Pro's top features is our comparable sales tool. As you can see, I'm logged into a saved property. I'm going to scroll down to where you're going to see our executable steps workflow and go to step number 4. Here you're going to find our comparable sales tool. our deal analyzer, and all of our offer formulas. So definitely jump into that after the comparable sale. But let me share a few of the awesome features that our comparable sales tool offers. The very first thing is you can actually filter your comparable sales tool down. So maybe if you have a single family house, you don't need to see condos and other types of properties, as well as bedrooms, baths, square feet, year built, lot size, how many months back. Now, keep in mind, you don't want to go 12 months back because 12 months ago was a different time frame. We want to try to find homes that have sold that are comparable within a very short time frame. So we default it to 6 months, but feel free to go back maybe a month or maybe 3 months. And how many comps do you want to show? Also, the distance from the property. Maybe we exclude all properties within a certain radius. REI Pro does offer MLS comps as well as all county records. So any property like a for sale by owner that has sold is also going to be displayed here. I like to display all of them. Once you do that, you could simply apply the filters. Next, we also offer beside that is you can email this particular comps report once you have ran through our comparable sales and selected the comps to get to our most important number in real estate, which is the after repaired value. This is what a home would sell for if in tip-top shape after all repairs have been made on the property. You can also view and print this report. Now, we do have the map here, which has a lot of things actually going on. So you can see the pin marker. This is where the subject property is going to be. And then the letters are going to represent A being the closest. Obviously, if you get to Z, Z would be the furthest away. You can expand this map to get a more full screen. You can also go to layers and actually see the school boundaries. A lot of times you may pick a comp that may be outside of a specific school boundary, as well as neighborhoods. You can also draw. Maybe you want to draw within certain streets as boundaries because, as you know, properties on this side of the street may be a different neighborhood than on the other side of the street. And that's where the draw tool can really help you. If you scroll down, obviously you could drag this icon anywhere on the map and we can actually get a street view from that. And of course, just simply zooming in and zooming out you can do as well. Now to the right is going to be our summary. You can see that I've already selected 2 comparable sales that are properties that are similar to this property. It's going to give us the average cost per square foot for those 2. It's going to give us the average sold price. And then what is that after repaired value? We're going to actually carry this number into our offer formula so we can make the correct offer to the owner. Down below, you're going to see all of the different comparable sales. You're going to see the address, the sold price, the sold date, bedrooms, baths, year that it was built, the square footage, which is the most important number that I look at, lot size, distance from the subject property, the price per square foot that it's sold for. We also have these little icons here. Those icons are going to take you to Google where you can explore pictures so you can understand what the condition of the property was in at the time that it sold. You're going to also see our MLS badge. Like I said, we are going to bring in all the comparable sales. We have MLS and county records for all 50 states. So as an example, if you live in the state of Texas, you're going to be able to see all the comparable sales. As you know, it's a non-disclosure state, which doesn't allow sold data to be published publicly. But because you have a REI Pro account where you actually have to log in, we have special permission to display this information to our members. Now, once I've selected the comps that I'd like to choose, you're going to see that summary over here. Now, again, I can go and actually view and print this and have a report available as well as emailing it. Again, finding the after repaired value is a must in real estate investing. And anytime that you want to buy a piece of real estate, to make sure that you're paying the proper price for it. The next step, you would want to move on to the offer formula. If you're giving a cash offer, a lease option offer, a seller finance offer, or even a pre-foreclosure offer, you're gonna need this number. I'm gonna teach you how to run comparable sales in REI Pro. So you're gonna find this under step 4 of any property that you have saved to the system. Let me scroll down just a little bit so we can kind of explain everything that's going on here. So first and foremost, at the top, you're going to have filter comps. You're going to be able to email this report, view, and print it. So once we've gone through, selected our comps to determine what our after repaired value is, you have that capability. Now, just looking at the map, you can go full screen with this. We can turn satellites on and off. You also have the opportunity to show school districts or boundary lines, as well as what neighborhoods are on here. You also have a draw tool where you can actually draw and select those comps that you want. You can zoom in, zoom out, plus you can even do a street view by dragging the guy right on the map. So if I were to zoom in here as an example, I can now take my guy and throw him on here and actually check out the neighborhood. What kind of homes, what kind of neighborhood does this look like? Do I see a lot of trash? What do I see here? Okay, so now underneath, we're going to start selecting comps. Now, I've already pre-selected a few comps, but I want to explain this in a little more depth. The very first thing that I look at is the subject property. Okay, so I'm not really cared about the sold price, date, and all that, but how many bedrooms, baths, when was it built, what was the square footage, lot size, all that good stuff. The most important number is the square footage. So our subject property is 1,292 square feet. My goal in real estate is try to find similar square foot properties here. Okay, so if I look at the first property down, if I don't look at anything else, I see 1230. So that's fairly close to this same square footage. If I keep scrolling, I can almost eliminate several properties just based on this one column here of square footage. So that's kind of the first number that I want to look at. The second numbers I want to look at are the year built and bedrooms and baths, right? So a 2-bedroom, 1-bath is not comparable to a 4-bedroom, 3-bath as an example. I'm also looking at distance from the subject property. So, a lot of times if you start moving this map around, and let's just go to kind of a different view here, and I may jump out of a neighborhood to get a comp, but is that neighborhood compared or is it similar to this particular neighborhood? I see a lot of times where people will start just picking this house in a different neighborhood, but the prices are going to, really deter the values here. So we want to make sure that the neighborhoods are very similar at the same time. Now, if I look at these comps here, you're going to see the letter, right? So the very first thing is the letter. You're going to see the letter on the map. Then you're going to see the address. You're also going to have this little clickable icon, which is a go-to icon. This is going to open this particular property that is sold up in Google. One thing that I like to do is look for any pictures. I like to use pictures because I want to understand what the condition of the property was in when it sold. So if it was, in distressed situation and there's broken windows and it needs a lot of updating, that's not going to be a good comparable sale. Generally speaking, we want to take properties not only that are comparable, but are in tip-top shape. I want to know what the after repaired value is, right? So that means after it's all fixed up, ready to go in tip-top shape. So I like to look at pictures when I'm evaluating this. So as I'm going through each one of these properties, I'm looking at square footage, I'm looking at similar baths, bedrooms, I'm looking at year, I'm looking at distance, and now I'm looking at pictures online to really help me determine, is this a good comparable sale to use? Underneath that, you'll see some have MLS and some are left blank. So not only do we have the MLS sold data in all 50 states, there are properties that don't necessarily sell through the MLS, and that's where it would be blank. If I want to filter this list, I'll scroll back up here and click Filter Comps. Now, you have a lot of different options here from property type. You can search for bedrooms and baths. You can go into the square feet. This will kind of help narrow down that list so you're not looking at a ton of properties here. So as you keep going down here, you also can display just MLS sold properties or just county record sold properties. Okay, you do have the ability to save filters here as well, but I'm going to go ahead and just apply just even that basic filter. And of course you want to do that a little bit more just to get it a little bit closer, and that way you're not seeing tons of properties out here. I now have taken all of this data, I've filtered it down, I have selected the most comparable properties that have, keep in mind, have sold. You can ask for $1 million for a house, but it doesn't mean it's going to sell for $1 million. My after repaired value now has come out to $337,000. That number is important because we're going to carry that after repaired value over into our offers side. So if the deal looks like a deal, we need to go look at it. We can't properly give someone an offer if we don't understand what needs to be fixed on the property. We don't understand the neighborhood. We don't even know if we want to be here. It's hard for me to create an offer. And I know a lot of people, what they do is they send numbers to somebody. And if they bite, then I'll go look at it and give them a real number. And that's always a disappointment to a seller, but it is what it is. You can go in and now use our default template or create a new template. As an example, I could go and say the roof needs to be repaired. It's one unit. It's going to cost me $5,000. It's going to move it to a budgeted cost. When you act, if you were to buy this house, you're a rehabber, as an example, you could then put in your actual cost. So it actually cost me $5,200, and now I could actually mark that completed, because we have a progress checklist here of items that need to be done. Now, if I say, okay, we need to replace 5 windows at, let's say, 500, maybe we need, let's not do foundation. Let's do garage. We need to repair it. Maybe we just need to put some money into here. There you go. We'll use 750. As I start to go through this, I can add notes, I can add new line items, and I can also open up the rest of this particular property. Okay. I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but one of the cool things is just show me only the budgeted items. This will quickly get rid of all the nonsense that you don't want to see after you've already filled it out. Now, obviously, if I go to the exterior general checklist here, you can see that I've completed 1 of 3. So this is just going to keep you on track. You can print a blank form here. You can also print the current form of where you're at with it at that moment of time. Okay, now when you're done with this step, great. You're going to go home. You're going to tell the owner, hey, let me run some numbers and I'll get back with you to create an offer. Obviously, you want to do that pretty soon. How to create a cash offer inside of REI Pro. Now, when we talk about cash offer, we're not talking about you're giving the seller dollar bills. All we're saying is you're going to pay the seller in one lump sum. Now, generally, when we do this, we have to get a discount. So let's jump into making a cash offer, no matter if you're wholesaling real estate or if you're just rehabbing real estate. As I scroll down, you're going to see this little switcher here from wholesaling to rehabbing. Now, if you are rehabbing without a wholesaler, you would just use this. If you are the wholesaler, then of course you want to be sure to throw in your potential profit so we can calculate the correct offer to the seller. Now, the very first thing we want to do is look at step 1 over to the left-hand side, and this is going to be the ARV. So we've already run comparable sales, and that ARV has now carried over in saying that this is what the home would be worth in tip-top shape. Underneath this, you can actually create templates just to make your life so much easier. So if you know exactly what these costs are going to be from acquisition, and if it's going to be the same cost for every time you make a cash offer, you can go ahead and set these automatically. So it's going to save you a bunch of time in the future. All right, so we're going to work on the expense column, which is going to be right in the middle. Now, the very first expense is what we call the acquisition expense. So these are costs associated with buying the property. These costs are, but not limited to, the following: title exam, title insurance, document prep, recording fees. You as a wholesaler, when you assign or sell your contract to an investor that's going to buy it ultimately, there's going to be a closing on that. And that's where we have to take these costs into consideration. Now, if you don't know these costs, I would totally recommend get with a local closing attorney or a title company to determine what is the average cost for selling properties in your area where you're investing. I'm going to go ahead and add in $1,200 for this particular case. Next is our repair expense. So remember, in step 3, we went and inspected the property. We determined how much it's going to cost to put this home in tip-top shape. From that, we have estimated the cost of repairs to be $55,000. Next is what I call a hedge expense. If you click the little icon, these are added costs in case your repair analysis was figured wrong. There's always something that you're going to miss. So I like to add a little bit of buffer on my repair expense. And generally what I like to do is go to 10%. So that's going to take 10% of the total repair expense. As we scroll down into holding expenses, you can click the icon. So these are going to be costs during the fix-up of the property, which include insurance, taxes, and utilities. Now, although you are wholesaling it, the investor that's going to buy it is going to incur these costs. Now, you may not know the exact cost to this, but we do need to put in an estimate here. In this example, I'm going to go ahead and put in $2,000. Next is the holding time. So the length of time it's going to take to rehab the property. You could also throw in the time that it's going to sell, right? So again, we don't know what the investor is going to do. The investor could rehab it and just rent it out real quick. Or maybe the investor fixes it up, puts it back on the market, and sells it to a new homeowner. At this point, we want to be safe than sorry. So sometimes this takes a little bit of experience depending on the level of rehab and the length of time that this is going to be. In this example, I'm going to say 2 months. Next is going to be the agent commission. So I want you to think about, you assign your contract to a new investor. The new investor could fix up the property and then put it back on the market. And if they used an agent to sell that, there's going to be a commission paid. Now, depending on the level of commission in your state, your area, it's going to be different. So in this case, I'm going to put 6%, which is a pretty standard percentage. And that's just assuming that we have a listing agent selling it and an agent that's going to represent the buyer eventually to buy it. Now, once that investor sells the house, they're going to have closing costs again. So not only do they have closing costs to buy it from the original owner, now that they fixed it up, they're going to have closing costs at some point. Even if they rent it out for 5 years and then decide to sell, they're still going to eventually have closing costs. So I'm going to put in $1,200 again. And as we scroll down just a little bit more, you're going to see if there's any back taxes, any back payments, HOA fees, anything like that that you found out. Of course, you want to add that in here. We also have advertising expense. Maybe you work with, rehabbers that they just put signs in the front yard and they don't use agents. So you could eliminate the agent commission and just add in some advertising expense. And then last but not least, any other expenses that incur on the property or things that you find out, we definitely want to throw those in there. Now, as we scroll back up, this is where we're going to start to put in potential profit. So if you're wholesaling this, now this fee could vary. Generally, it could be anywhere from 3 to 20%. Sometimes it may be less. This is all going to change depending on what offer the seller is willing to take. There are cases where you might predict, hey, I'm going to make 10 grand, but you try to sell it to a new investor and like, Chris, I'll give you 5 grand for it. Okay, you might settle for 5 just to get rid of the deal. There's also going to be cases where you hit a home run and these profits could go way up. Next, we have to estimate what the potential profit will be for the rehabber as well. Otherwise, your analysis is going to be figured out incorrectly. Generally, in most places, I always like to start at 15%. Most investors need to get that 15% return. Some are willing to take less. Some won't even work the deal unless it's more. So this is a good general number at 15%. I think the more that you work with your investors, your buyers, you're going to understand what their profits need to be. And this is how you would calculate future deals. Now, if we go down to the cash offer summary here, you can see the after repaired value at 307. Total expenses is going to be $85,000. Your wholesaling profit would be $10,000. Rehabber profit would be $46,000. So your maximum cash offer. So what we're doing is we're taking our after repaired value, subtracting our expenses, subtracting all profits to get to our maximum cash offer. So if all of our expenses were true and we could sell the home for 307, both the wholesaler and rehabber would profit those numbers. So that's 53%, almost 54% of the ARV. Now, our recommended offer is we like to start a little bit less, right? So you want some negotiating room because keep in mind, your maximum cash offer is the maximum. The only way to create a higher offer is to reduce some of your expenses or reduce some of your profits. So what I like to do is go ahead and start typing in the actual number here, and you don't have to put the cents in there. Obviously, sellers are not going to care if you put cents in there, but they are going to wonder, how did you come up with 161,587? You see, you always want your offer to be a little bit different. You don't want it to just be, hey, I'll give you 160 grand for it. It almost seems like you've put no thought into it. Versus if you say, hey, I'll offer you 161, 587. The seller's going to think there must be a reason why they came up with that offer. I can now save this offer. Once I save this, I could view and print this offer as well as emailing this offer. So if I click email, I could go ahead and select the owner's or primary contacts information, put an email in here and attach that offer. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see the all cash offer is already selected. Now, if you wanted to throw in any other additional attachments, you could do that right here as well. I would then send the email. Now, always follow up. If you send an offer by email, you must follow up by phone because it's too easy for the seller to look at something on paper and say no. Right? Sometimes you need to talk about it. You need to explain, hey, look, we need to bring this property up into 2023. Okay. And unfortunately, it just costs a lot of money to do that. So this is how you make a cash offer in REI Pro. We're going to be talking about putting the home under contract, which is executable step number 5. Now, executable step number 8 is very similar and can follow the same instruction here. Step 5 is when you're putting the house under contract to buy. Step 8 is when you're putting the house under contract to sell. A lot of times you're going to be using the same contracts. You're just changing the verbiage and who the buyer seller is. So as you can notice, we have some REI Pro contracts in here, a lot of basic contracts that you can use day by day. Will disclose you should always have a real estate attorney review any contract before signing. So here you'll have a list of our contracts. Now, we do have some icons if you need a training video on how to exactly fill that out. You can also download a blank version of this either in Word or PDF. We also have a contract writer. So if I want to start this assignment of contract, I could then fill in the writer and it will display on the contract itself. Now, if I hit save, it will save this contract over here. So all of your saved contracts are going to be to the right. You do have the opportunity to upload any signed contract. So if you printed this contract out, you had it signed in person, you can come back, take a picture of it and upload it so you have it stored to this property. You can also on the left-hand side, upload any custom contracts that you may need on the fly, something that you're used to. We also do have at the very bottom some seller finance agreements. These are for download purposes only, but it's going to help you take these agreements to your attorney and make sure that they're going to work in your area. 99.9% of the time, a real estate attorney is going to create your seller finance agreements. There's a lot of moving parts to that, and you don't want to mess anything up. Now, if I scroll back up to here and I have a contract to purchase already filled out, if I go to my actions button, you can download this, you can preview it, email it, as well as delete it. So you're going to have that capability. So left-hand side, we're going to fill out the contract. We're then going to get it signed. We now have a saved contract over here. And step 8 is going to work identical to this. I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself with executable step number 6. And that is the affidavit of memorandum. So as you can read here, anytime an investor secures a contract with a seller, they stand a remote chance that the seller may find another buyer who will give them a better price. So although you may have this property under contract, the seller could turn around and go to another buyer and sign a contract with them. So how do we actually protect ourselves from doing that? And that's where the affidavit comes into play. So this affidavit is a one-sheet piece of paper that you are swearing to the world that you have this particular house under contract. So if the seller were to go around your back, go to the title company, try to close the deal with another buyer, they're going to do what's called a title search. And guess what's going to pop up in that title search? That's right, the affidavit. So what we have to do is print this out. You can simply download the affidavit by clicking that button. And now we're going to go fill it out. So here's the affidavit and print this out. You're the only one that has to sign this. Okay, but you do have to get it notarized, and then you do have to file it down at the county recorder's office, and that way it's filed with this property. So let's cover this affidavit. So right here, you're going to have a notary, An agreement for purchase and sale of real property described in attached Exhibit A was entered into and between the affiliate as buyer and blank as seller on the day you signed the contract. The closing of the purchase and sale of said real property per the terms of the agreement is to take place on or about. So here you're going to put the closing date that you put in the contract. A copy of this agreement for purchase and sale said real property may be obtained by contacting you at your mailing address. So if you have a P.O. box or an office address, that would be better. But worst case scenario, you could put your own personal residence. You're basically putting your contact information. If there were ever a problem, to justify, do you really have a contract? They'll be able to contact you. You're simply going to date and sign this agreement, and then you're simply going to have it notarized. Now, when that happens, you need to go file it down at the county recorder's office. So what I like to do is print this out, take it down to the county recorder's office and say you need to get this affidavit notarized, and then you can then file it. The fees for filing are going to range for each county. It could be $20, could be $100. So it's going to vary. The great thing is it's going to protect you on the deal. And I learned about this because it happened to me. And not to say that I've ever had it happen again, but it's always the time that you don't protect yourself is when something goes wrong. So I'm going to teach you how to search for a list of potential investors, which could be buyers. So if you're that wholesaler looking for people that buy real estate, this would be the place to go. First thing I want to do is select a targeted market. So where do people buy properties? I'm then going to say, what are we looking for? And we're going to go down to investors. Now, this is going to replace our old cash buyers because cash buyers only paid cash. But in most cases, investors may get hard money. They may get, traditional financing and actually have a loan on it. It doesn't mean they're less valuable. So we want to take everybody in this particular case. And that's why we made the change from cash buyers, because I think we'll be limiting ourselves on potential buyers versus just investors. And these are going to be company owned properties. So if I go ahead and click that search button, I'm going to see that I've got over 1,500. Now, generally, you could kind of filter this down. If an investor only buys single family homes, I would just say, hey, they may be more interested in just single family versus, if you did townhome or a condo. Estimated values, where do my buyers generally buy? Is it in between maybe the 2 and let's say 500,000 range? And of course, maybe, equity isn't going to really matter because we're really looking for the owner of the property so we can market them to potentially build a relationship with them and market and buy our properties that we're either wholesaling or just selling in general. So equity isn't going to make that big of a deal in this particular case. Obviously, if there was some crazy company that had reverse mortgage, you could exclude that, or any kind of HELOCs. Most of the time, these are not going to be relevant in this particular query. And, what do your investors typically buy? Although we're searching for properties that they have bought, generally gives us a good sign of what they're looking to buy in the future. And that's really the whole point. Now, owner-wise, again, these are company-owned properties, so they generally are all absentee owners. Now, do they live in state or out of state? To me, hey, I want somebody that's fairly local, so I would say in-state. I can then apply those filters to get to that 83 number. So now I can take this list and put it in a marketing campaign. And then what I'm going to do is actually send out some postcards that we have pre-designed templates just for this scenario. So highly encourage you to use that. I'm going to teach you about executable step number 9, and that's closing the property. So here, if we use a closing attorney or if we use a title company, we have thousands of companies listed inside of REIPRO. If you have a favorite particular title company, or maybe you have a title company that's not on our list, you can always add in a new just by searching right here. Now, for this particular property, we could scroll in and just say, okay, what are the closest title companies? I could pick a dot on the map and get that information, give them a call, and so forth. A lot of times you're going to use this when you're a new investor and you don't have these relationships built. I could tell you may use 2 or 3 different title companies in your area, just depending on maybe what kind of deal that you do. Here's the list of them, and I can just scroll through all the different title companies. They could also be attorneys as well. Now, if I have favorite title companies such as University Title Company, I can click that favorite and then maybe just show my favorites for this property. Obviously, pick the ones that you can build a relationship along with a title company or closing attorney that is capable of closing the types of transactions that you're looking to do. I want to teach you about ongoing education. So huge. REI Pro is packed full of educational videos in various different real estate strategies and marketing. To access these, all you have to do is go over to the main menu where you see education. We're going to click on that. Now we have several different categories, from general tips to new updates, our previous live Q&A sessions, wholesaling, lease option, seller financing, pre-foreclosure, how to fix and flip, and marketing. So if I were to click on wholesaling, you're going to have various videos, including an entire training series from start to finish right here. So it is packed full of education. All the education that you're going to need with various different strategies is going to be in here. And again, these big strategies of having that start to finish education that generally people pay thousands of dollars for. Get in here and get educated. Not only is going to help you with your craft, and now you've got the tool, REI Pro, in combination with that education. We do randomly do live webinars, so stay updated. We'll generally email a link to get registered. All of those are generally free. You want to take advantage of that. So definitely get into the education side of it and just keep learning and learning, and you're going to make a lot more money by knowing what to do next. Hope this training video helped, and be sure to take advantage of our other membership videos and resources.